Welcome to all of you. I am Prakash Reddy. Today you learn the centrifugation process in the food processing. The main learning outcome, what is meant by centrifugation process, its basic principle, then what are the equipments involving in it, and construction and working of the centrifugation equipment which are used in food processing industry. Centrifugal separation, it is a separation technique used in food processing, pharmaceutical and chemical industry. The main basic two application of the centrifugation process. The first for example is that the fruit juices, in the fruit juice containing the whatever the suspended, unwanted, solid particles or maybe contaminated particles, these particles are separated by using the number of techniques in which by filtration technique, by membrane filtration technique, by sedimentation. But the centrifugation technique is very effective for the clarification of the whatever the liquid food. In this fruit juice containing these suspended particles is separated by using the centrifugal force. When we apply the centrifugal force, due to the centrifugal force, that rotational force, whatever the suspended solid particles that are containing on that liquid food, all particles are collected at the bottom of this tube due to the centrifugal force. That means whatever the depending on their terminal settling velocity or the density, the particles are separated from that liquid, and finally we can separate this sediment particles on the bottom of that tube. Then second one is the example, that is the separation of the cream from the milk, or the separation of the liquid constitute on the basis of their density difference. That means the separation of oil from the milk, or the separation of the water soluble constitute from the oil, or separation of the cream from the skim milk. In this process, by application of the centrifugal force, when we apply the centrifugal force with the milk, then two layer formation in which the cream layer at the top and the milk constituents which density is higher, they are remaining at the bottom. And finally these two layers are separated by using the automatic separation technique. You can see in this third example, the centrifugal separation is the basic principle. When we apply the centrifugal force, that is the high speed rotation force is applied in this bowl, and feeding of the liquid food into the rotating bowl. Due to the high speed rotation, centrifugal force, whatever the constitutes, depending on their density, the layer are formation in which the higher density material, they are moved to the side of that wall, and the lighter density, they remain in the center. On the basis of their density, the two layers, these layers are separated, or maybe whatever the solid constituents which are present, they are deposited on the bowl wall, and the formation of the thick cake and the separation of this suspended solid particles from the liquid. The application of the centrifugation process in food processing industry, the main examples, that is the first one is the separation of the milk cream from the milk. That means separation of cream and skim milk by using the disc bowl centrifuge or the tubular centrifuge, in which milk is fed into the centrifuge and the separation is achieved. First, that is the milk cream, and the second one is the skim milk. The second one is the in oil refining process. The oil containing whatever the suspended solid particles, unwanted particles during the refining process, that is the bleaching, degumming, neutralization process, the water soluble constitute from the oil separation is carried out by using the centrifugal separation method. Then clarification of the liquid foods, for example beer, wine, vinegar, etc. Then the tubular bowl centrifuge used for the clarification for the cider, then sugar, syrup, and the liquid processing also used for the pharmaceutical processing. Centrifugal separation used for the clarification of the fruit juices. That means basic application is that separation of the unwanted particles or the suspended particles from the liquid, and separation of the liquid constituent on the basis of their density difference. These are the main two advantages of the centrifugation process in the food process. Centrifugal separation equipments, they are grouped into the three main groups. First one is the separation of immiscible liquids, in which the tubular bowl centrifuge and the disc bowl centrifuge used in dairy processing and the oil processing industry. Then second one is the centrifugal clarification, removal of the whatever the suspended solid particle from the liquid, that is the clarifying centrifuge, in which the solid bowl centrifuge and second one is the nozzle centrifuge, or also called as a wall discharge centrifuge, used for the clarification of the fruit juices and the liquid foods. And third one is the dewatering or desludging centrifuge, used for the separation of high solid containing into the sludge or the whatever the liquid foods. Best example is that conveyor bowl centrifuge. These are the main equipments which are used in the food processing industry. First one is the tubular bowl centrifuge. As per the name, the main rotating internal bowl, that is the in tubular, like a pipe, that is the cylindrical bowl, which is the rotate to inside of that casing. The speed of rotation between 15,000 rpm to 50,000 rpm, depending the specific diameter and the length. First we can see the what are the main part of the tubular bowl centrifuge. The main part is that electrical motor with the gearbox at the top, and the feed pipe is provided at the bottom. The main central rotating bowl, that is the cylindrical tubular bowl, this is the long tubular bowl. The inside of that casing, this is the outer casing, and the internally rotating bowl, which is connected to the shaft and then gearbox with the electrical motor. The feed pipe is provided at the bottom, whatever the liquid feed, that is the feed from the bottom, and then passing to the central rotating bowl into the discharge line. This is the outer casing. Whatever the solid suspended particles which are deposited inside of that rotating bowl and resulting formation of the cake, if the tubular bowl centrifuge used for the clarification process. These are the main part of the tubular bowl centrifuge. Then working of the tubular bowl centrifuge. The bowl is rotated inside this casing with the high speed of the rotation. Typically diameter of that rotating bowl is that 0.1 meter in diameter and 0.75 meter in long, depending on the specific application, maybe varies. Whatever the liquid feed, that liquid food is fed from the pump into the center of that tube into the rotating bowl. When the liquid enter into the rotating bowl, due to the centrifugal force, whatever the liquid containing suspended particles, heavy particles or unwanted particles, or that is the denser particles, they are deposited on the rotating bowl, and remaining all the clarified liquid, they are passed into the center into the discharge line, if this tubular bowl centrifuge is used for the clarification process. We can use for this tubular bowl centrifuge for also separation of the immiscible liquids. That time there is the provision of outlet at a two-way, that is the central outlet, that is the lighter fraction outlet, and the whatever the heavy fraction, this heavy fraction outlet, this is the second outlet section. That means separation of the cream from the milk, or the separation of the oil from the liquid constitute. That the second is the disc bowl centrifuge. The disc bowl centrifuge, the basically in which the rotating bowl in which the inside number of the disc, these are the disc, conical disc, the number of the disc are fitted into the rotating bowl. The clearance between the disc is 0.5 to 1.27 millimeter clearance between the disc. The number of discs are set in this manner that the formation of the hole, which formation of the vertical channel in the stock. That means the basic purpose of number of discs are fitted to inside of that rotating bowl is that to provide maximum surface area to separate the constituent on the basis of the density difference. The main application is that separation of the milk cream from the milk, then clarification of the oils, feed inlet at the top, that is the feed from the top pipeline. Then number of these are the conical disc stocked on the rotating shaft. This is the shaft. At the bottom provided gearbox and the power transmission devices. This is the rotating bowl. This is the bowl, rotating bowl, along with the number of the conical disc. Then outlet, there are two sections. That is the first one is the section that is lighter liquid outlet, and second one is the heavy liquid outlet. That means the whatever the feed constitutes that containing the, you can see this is the cut section, half section of the disc bowl centrifugation process. Liquid feed at the center pipe at the top to into the bottom, and this bowl is rotated with the high speed. The speed of the rotation is that is the 2000 to 7000 rpm depending on the specific application. After entering into the rotating disc, the liquid constitutes in which the lighter liquid constitutes, they are move into the center and then outlet, and whatever the heavy constitutes, they move with the rotating bowl, and finally they are discharged at the heavy liquid discharge outlet. Next, third one is the solid bowl clarifier, or called as a solid bowl centrifuge, is a common use for the separation of the crystals from the liquid, or used for the separation of water droplets from the fruits and vegetable, and also used for the clarification of fruit juices and whatever the suspended particles or the slurry containing solid particles. These are the separated by using the solid bowl clarification process. The main part is that first one is the rotating bowl. This is the perforated bowl. Perforated bowls inside provided the filter media, which is fitted on the power transmission devices. This is the power transmission devices with the shaft and the gearbox. Maybe provided the shaft at the top or maybe at the bottom. In this photo you can see the power transmission devices. This is the electrical motor, then power transmission devices, then the shaft, and then fitted with the rotating perforated bowl. The construction of the solid bowl centrifuge is very simple, in which the only perforated bowl which is rotated on the shaft. By application of the centrifugation, the filtration is carried out. The inside of that perforated bowl provided the filter media for the filtration by using the centrifugal force. The working in which the feed liquid is enter at the center of that rotating bowl, and after that, due to the centrifugal force, whatever the liquid constituents, they are passed through the filter media into the outer casing, and they are discharged at the bottom. In the feed containing whatever the suspended particles, these suspended particles are deposited on the filter media and the formation of the cake. And in this way, we can using this solid bowl filter clarification process, we can carry out the separation of the unwanted particle from the liquid, and the clarification is carried out. Similarly, separation of the crystals from the liquid, it is also same done. Whatever the crystallized magma, these are fed from the feed pipeline to the center. Then after that, the whatever the syrup is present, this syrup is separated from the centrifugal force, and the remaining crystals are collected in this solid bowl clarifiers. In some processing, whatever the internal cake is formed, after the formation of this cake must require to properly wash out. This washing is carried out by feeding of the fresh water into the water feedlet pipe, and they spray on the water on that cake, and again continuously centrifugal force is applied, and finally washing is carried out, and finally whatever the cake is formed, this cake is discharged by using the there is the provision of the doctor blade. This doctor blade is scrap, that is the scrapping blade to scrap the whatever the internal cake is formed, and this cake is discharged from this central outlet section. The solid bowl clarification or the this filtration process is carried out by batch wise process, or also called as a wall discharge centrifuge. It is the same as a disc bowl centrifuge, only difference is that the bowl having a biconical shape, in which the inside the same provided the number of the discs. These are the number of the discs, that is the cones, which are fitted with the specific spacing. The feeding is same as a top to bottom. The bottom is provided the shaft. On this shaft, internal all discs are rotated. The basic application of the nozzle centrifuge is that whatever the liquid feed containing higher suspended particles, in which these suspended particles are continuously discharged, that means it is operated continuously. The main parts is that rotating inside disc, then external, this is the biconical bowl at the top bottom provided the rotating shaft, then power transmission and motor is provided, and these are the two valves which they are automatically open and close at a specific time interval. The feed containing whatever the suspended particles, they are collected into the biconical of this discharge section, and finally these are the suspended particles discharged through this valve continuously, and the clarification is done on that feed liquid. And the comparison between the disc bowl centrifuge and the nozzle centrifuge: in disc bowl centrifuge same the disc, and similarly in nozzle also there is the number of the disc. Only difference is that the specific biconical shape in the nozzle centrifuge, and the discharge is provided at this section, that is the solid outlet section. But in the disc bowl centrifuge separation process, the two layers which are the separated, and these are the separated at the top of that centrifuge. Next, last one is the conveyor bowl centrifuge, or also called as a desludging centrifuge. If the feed slurry containing high percentage of the solid suspended particles, these are the separated by using this conveyor bowl centrifuge. The main construction in which the part, there is the stationary bowl in which inside the rotating screw conveyor, this screw conveyors which is the rotating at the speed of the RPM 25 RPM per minute, and this screw conveyor, there is the shaft in which the internally it is hollow shaft through which the slurry is fed into the inside this chamber, and this after the entering, this screw is rotating. Due to the rotation of this screw, internal centrifugal force is created, and finally due to the centrifugal force, whatever the suspended particles, the suspended particles are remain on the bowl wall side, and whatever the remaining liquid, they move into the center, into the outlet section. These are the references used for this preparation of this PowerPoint presentation. In this video discussion, you learn application of centrifugation process in the food processing, and the specific construction and working of the centrifugal equipment.